Hello, good evening, and welcome to the couch. My name is PRATT. How has your week been so far? I hope you are being mindful, very mindful, minding your mind, and I hope you are managing your stress really, really, really well. And I'm saying all of this to indicate that I hope that the conversations that we are having here are meaningful to you and are being helpful and impacting your life positively, because really that's the plan. Tonight our conversation is on communication, the art of active listening for better connection and stronger relationships. The good stuff. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Let me go straight to our man, coach, lawyer, thinker, friend, all-round amazing man, Mr. Theodore Albright.
Thank you. You always make me feel very welcome here when I come here. I love coming here.
We love having you. Actually, I love having you.
I love being here. Yes.
Right. I was saying to you earlier that normally when we think communication, we just think talking.
Yeah.
Talking. We hardly ever consider the non-verbal aspects of communication. But what would you say communication is? Essentially
conveying a message, however, whatever vehicle you choose to use. But let's get this right also, that while you try to convey a message, the recipient also must be attentive and must be able to decode whatever message you're sending across. And so you choose how you code so that your recipient can encode what it is that you want to convey, and that is communication.
So it's threefold essentially. It's between you and somebody else, or you and an audience. However, you are conveying, which is what you would do. The next leg of the chain is somebody else receiving what it is that you are, but then you also have a responsibility to make sure that the communication is encodable, if that's
exactly. Exactly.
Right. So talk us through that.
Okay, so you notice that I didn't say you are speaking. All right. So the message can be an intentional message or an unintentional message. So for example, you go into a studio and you're not bothered, and subliminally or subconsciously it comes across as, sorry, I'm bored. You have communicated, albeit unintentionally. Or you see somebody and you smile. You have communicated, and it is intentional that you smiled. Okay, so not only do we communicate intentionally, but we communicate unintentionally. And communication intentionally or unintentionally, verbally or otherwise, is culture specific. Right? Let me give you an example. In England, if you speak to an authority figure and you look them in the eye, it is assumed you're being sincere. In Ghana, if you speak to somebody and you look them in the eye, it is assumed you don't respect.
You're challenging.
In England, if you don't look the person in the eye, they'll think you are shifty. In Ghana, if you don't look the person in the eye, they think you're subservient. So communication is not only intentional, unintentional, verbal, non-verbal, but culture specific.
Perhaps it's why it's an art.
Yes.
Right? because it goes beyond what is being communicated and how it's being communicated.
Yes. Yes.
There's a whole background and a history, and and nuances that you need to be aware of.
That's correct. And some people will even go as far as to say it is not only about what is said, but more importantly, what was not said. And so you have people who are communicating, and the recipient is interpreting or encoding or decoding at 20 different levels. Yes.
That's where the juice is.
That's where the juice is.
That's where the juice is, right? For instance, this morning, sometime this morning, I was going through Instagram, which is what, the cares that we all have these. When you wake up in the morning, you have to check your socials, check Facebook, check Instagram, check your email. So I'm just going through
It's
Instagram.
not a curse, it's a blessing.
It's absolute framing.
Yes.
Oh, I take that back. Oh,
Yes.
it's a blessing.
It's a blessing.
Absolutely.
To think that you have an impact and you influence hundreds, if not hundreds of millions of people across the globe.
I stand
They
corrected.
look up to you.
I stand corrected.
Even I follow you on Instagram.
No, but absolutely. So, I mean, and something popped up on my feed. It was a picture. No, it was a video of Idris Elba
Yes.
and his wife. Like, he's wearing like a long coat. She's wearing this really, small dress that the sleeves are.
Spaghetti strap.
Anyway, but it matches her purse. And I just looked at the comments, which is what we do. It's almost as if we are seeking validation for our own thoughts.
So we're living vicariously through the lives of other people.
So I go through and all the comments are very negative.
Okay.
All the comments are not about anything that any of them said. It was just about their posturing, the fact that he's not holding her, the fact that she's trying to hold him and he's not. He has to have his hands in his pockets, and she's trying to sort of get a picture with him this way. And so all the comments are negative. And I just find it interesting that, nothing of what was said was being discussed. It was just the body language.
Yes.
And where his hand was, or wasn't, or should have been.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, what you intend, what you don't intend, verbal, non-verbal, culturally specific, non-culturally specific, and then what is not said. All of that is communication.
Do we give too much premium to what is not said unnecessarily, or are we right to do that?
I think what is not said can contextually be important, or even more important than what is said. So we have a war going on in Gaza at the moment, and every time the spokespersons for the US come up, they will say a series of things, but we are all listening for the one word, which is ceasefire. Okay? And that never comes. All right. So sometimes what is said is important. What is communicated is important. What is not communicated can be even more important than what is communicated.
That can be decommunication. What is not
Yes.
said. That can be the.
Yes.
It's why we can say loud silence.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Hiding in plain sight,
Right.
loud silence. Yes.
Loud silence.
Oxymoron. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So now the art of active listening.
Yeah.
How more active can listening be?
So we're trying to differentiate between hearing, which is passive, and listening, which is active. And listening says, I value what you have to say, and I'm not just going to wait my turn to tell you the rubbish I want to tell you and demolish you, but rather I want to know what you have to say. I want to know why you are saying what you're saying. I want to know how I can apply what you're saying to my life and contextualize it. It means you need to wait and ask and wait and ponder. Yeah.
I really love what you just said. And you're so right. Sometimes you're just waiting your turn. That's all you're doing. Right? So it doesn't matter how long you have to, sort of sit and pay attention, but it's just so you can have a word in. I'm asking for the how we actively listen, because sometimes in communication you cannot hear, right? It happens. I don't know if I'm not asking this question correctly, but there are times when you are communicating with somebody and it feels as if you kind of have an idea of what's going to be said, or you know already what his or her position is going to be. And so, and I'm saying this because we've all been in situations where you've had to ask somebody, did you hear me? Because I did not say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do we hear? How do we listen? You understand what I'm saying?
So, Stephen Covey, one of his 7 habits of highly effective people says, first, seek to understand. So you can reframe the statement or rephrase the statement for understanding. Let me hear you right. Let me understand. Let me see if I understand what you're telling me. That is you as a recipient. You as a deliverer, if you are speaking, to be very clear, this is what I mean. And because this is what I mean, you can go one step forward. It will mean X or it will mean Y. But I'm very willing to take on anything you want to say, or if you don't understand me, then ask. Let me put all of this in context. In an environment where you are speaking or you are writing, and these are deliberate communications, you're engaging in deliberate communication, it is important that you assess your A, B, C, D, E, and F. First, consider your audience. And how you tailor your communication. And here I'm talking about intentional communication, not unintentional communication. Secondly, as much as possible, you should be brief. So brevity is important. In fact, sometimes when I write, hello could be a sentence. Hello, full stop. How are you? Question mark. All well? Exclamation mark. That's a sentence. Brevity is really important. Then content and context are really important. Then your style of delivery. Am I going to be a preacher? Am I going to be a Southern Baptist preacher type, Obama type, Nelson Mandela type? Or am I going to be strident, staccato, chop, chop, chop? Am I going to be smooth? Am I going to be shrill? Am I going to be boomy in my voice? Am I going to speak very quickly? Am I going to be very dramatic? Am I going to be slow? You see, your style of delivery is ever important. Am I going to be quiet? Am I going to shout? Your delivery.
And it's important because it adds, or it is the message. No?
The content is the message. The style is the message. The vehicle is the message. The mood is the message. Oh, darling. Oh, darling. Oh, stop it. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I said stop it. Stop it. Stop doing what you are doing. Don't stop doing what you are doing. All of that. So the mood is a message. The style is a message. The pace, the speed, the cadence, the choice of words is a message. The message is the message.
Absolutely. G.
So,
E rather, sorry.
Am I exciting?
Exciting.
How am I executing? Because the mood is important. And then when I finish it all, do I obtain feedback? Or as we want to say these days, feed forward, because feedback should enable us to feed forward for the future. Okay, but this is me speaking, writing, engaging, and in some parts of the world you gesticulate, and that's part of it, and other parts of the world you don't do so. Eye to eye, hands behind your back. In England, if anybody looks at Prince Charles speaking, he has one hand in his pocket or he has his hand behind his back. That is a symbol of authority. In Ghana, when you put your hand in your pocket or you put your hand behind your back, it is a symbol that you are subservient to the person from whom you are receiving information. So there are cultural nuances even in how we put our message across, and the same with how we receive our message. But the important thing is to make sure that you understand what is being said, or you seek clarification that your message is understood. Because ultimately, communication is not about what you say or what message you put across. It's more about what is understood and what is heard. So
what is understood or what is heard.
So you're talking to a partner in your life, and you're being sarcastic, and so your partner gets angry, and when you're settling the matter with a third party, you say, all I asked him was, what does he want for dinner? No content, no context, no mood, no cadence. You completely mischaracterized the delivery. Ibusana say, "Depe nobody," and then Ibufuye. I simply asked him what he would eat, and he got angry. It does not give the nuanced background to the communication.
Because you definitely did more than that.
You were actually walking away when your husband came or when the partner came.
You did way more than that.
You opened the door, he came in, you turned around, as you were going, you said, what do you want to eat? And you kissed your teeth.
Sprinkle the chuckle in there.
Yes, exactly. All right?
Right.
So, if we want to communicate and we are genuinely interested in communicating and we want to be listened to, then we must first seek to understand by stopping to understand the what is being said, the why is being said, the how it's applicable in the context before we respond.
Absolutely. And in the reverse, and I completely agree with the example that you just gave, because sometimes we say way more than we do. I do it, right? But then there's also just the reverse where you're really just asking, what will you eat? But perhaps based on some knowledge, maybe in the morning something might have been done or said, or guilt, right? So your simple "what would you eat" can also be misconstrued to mean absolutely nothing that you intended. There's that too, which is why you say that the whole point is to seek to understand, right? So that when you are not sure, seek to understand.
Yes, indeed.
And that sort of clarifies everything.
That clarifies everything, except that often we have agendas. And those agendas can go back 20 years, 30 years. And so if there is mistrust, then understanding or no understanding, the mistrust colors what is being said. So you could be perfectly clear. We both understand what is going on, but either I don't like you or I do like you, I don't trust you or I do trust you, so I misframe or will reframe what I am hearing and mischaracterize what I hear. And so where you have a person who says freedom and justice, peace, love, and next thing you hear, they are beating their wife or they are beating their partner, it is incongruous. The two don't sit together. And so when that person comes to communicate, however they communicate, whatever message they give you, because there is no trust, you will frame that message differently. And so it doesn't matter whether it's written on paper, spoken crisply, devoid of every non-verbal cue, you will still not trust, and you will filter it through the lens of the relationship, your perception, and more importantly, your perspective. And so where there are issues of mistrust, you must first of all address the issue of trust or mistrust before you even begin to deliver your message. So let's say this morning I come out and I've had a blazing row with my partner. I come home in the evening and pretend that nothing happened in the morning. That ain't gonna work, mate. Alright? No. You should be sending flowers in the morning, chocolate in the afternoon, and a bottle of Prosecco. Honey, I'm home. Bottle of Prosecco with a bow around it. And you just strolling, look at her and say, I didn't do well this morning.
Oh yes, that.
Forgive me. Let's make peace. That is how you begin to mend the relationship for trust, for your message then to be heard loud and clear.
Right. Now, communication I mean, and this is what our topic is actually, the art of active listening for better connection and stronger relationships. And we live this, so we know that communication then becomes that essential glue in any relationship, How do we manage it? I think sometimes our emotions get in the way of our communication. Because even with the example you just gave, and I said strolling because I'm looking at the other side of the person, not coming with the flowers, not coming with, and just strolling into the house and acting like everything is okay.
Yeah. In
that moment, let's say in the morning, I've been mindful and said to myself, I'm going to have a great day today.
Yes.
In that moment, my emotion is going to get the better of that moment.
That is correct.
And I'm not perhaps going to communicate in the best way that I wish I could. So how do we manage communication for better connection and for stronger relationships?
Okay. So let's categorize the communication. You can have corporate communication.
Right. You
can have individual communication. You can have wholesale national communication. Fellow Ghanaians.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Right.
And then, of course, the object of the communication is really important. Beyond that, of course, we talked about the audience, brevity, content, and context, and so all of those things are really important. And I think if the magnitude of the outcomes sought are significant, then you need to spend time. Really. If you're a politician and you're giving your landmark speech, you need to spend time. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Up until he stood on the podium, he was still refining that speech. I have a dream. Barack Obama, yes we can.
Yes we can.
Okay? So the impact and the import of your communication ought to be borne in mind, i.e. content and context ought to be borne in mind before you even stand on the podium. But if it's just you and me, one-on-one, or a small group, you still need to prepare. You still need to have in mind your audience and brevity and context and delivery. And all of this is verbal. But you can also translate that into audio, visual, video, or on paper writing. And I'll say this, I write as I speak, and I speak as I write. So if you listen to me, you will even find where the punctuation marks ought to be. That is what I do. So it becomes very easy to communicate on paper, very easy to put my message across. Okay. Beyond that, I think it's important, again, depending on the impact you're going to have, to practice beforehand. When I used to go to court in England, I would normally stand in front of a mirror and articulate what I wanted to say. These days, you have an iPad, so you can just put your iPad on and speak and video yourself and watch how you articulate. And if you need to slow down your pitch, then you do so. And the reason why you might do that is because it gives you those milliseconds to be able to think about what you're going to say next.
Right.
So in a fraught environment, that is not the time where you go and you speak fast and high pitch. No. Slow down. Go from 100 to 85 and say, look, I am serious. This morning was a total disaster. Let's see if we can mend it and do it better. Simple. Your pitch, your cadence, the volume of your voice me, Fino. Jimmy. You know, that sort of communication only draws on firepower from the other side. How important is the person with whom you wish to connect? What is the impact you are going to have and they're going to have on your life? Once you determine the import, you can determine the style. This morning, coming here, I got to Fiesta Royale, stopped, and a young man came with a squeezy bottle to clean my windshield. I told him, don't do it. He carried on. So I let him finish. I called him over. And this is what I said to him. How can you bless somebody who doesn't obey your instructions? Nowhere in the world does someone get rewarded for being disobedient. When I tell you to stop, you stop. And that was my voice. When I tell you to stop, you stop. Because if you're disobedient to my voice, only curses will come to you. No blessings. Thank you. And he got the message. Loud and very clear.
I don't think they've ever thought about it that way before.
No.
Because they do that a lot. You say no, they just carry on.
Yes.
And I think we do that in our everyday interactions with people.
Yeah.
People say to you, I don't want this, and somehow we go right ahead and do exactly that.
And so framing that narrative for him, if he's a thinker, I think that for the next few weeks he will ask, do you want me to? And say no, but you do this. And then the person out of their charity can bless you. And so we should, if the import is significant, frame the interaction even before we get there. That's important.
Wow. I'm thinking of all the ways people disobey what you say to them. It's so rampant. You go to fix your nails. You say don't do this, they'll do the exact opposite. You go to fix your hair. You know, because somehow everybody thinks they know better, and because they know better for you, you should be pleased that in their minds they are serving you. But like you say, that's disobedience.
That is disobedience.
That is absolute disobedience.
And I cannot bless a person who has disobeyed me. And because we understand blessings and curses in our culture, it means that message carries far. But imagine that you go to England and you talk about blessings and curses. Blessing, yes, they will understand it in a very ephemeral way.
Like, oh bless you.
God bless you.
Oh bless you.
But cursing, that's quite odd, rather strange. And so the choice of language that we use is important.
It's very important. It's very important. Okay, I have so many things written down here. Okay, so I mean, what it means then is that every time I communicate, again, you're back to mindfulness. I need to be mindful, one, of understanding, but also two, of everything else that you speak about. That's
hard work.
Yeah, that's work.
All right. So, what's the context?
I mean, where's the place for just, speaking from my heart and speaking my truth and things like that.
All right. So, context is really important. If you're hanging out, girls, you can be jocular. Let's have fun. Woo, wow. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. But if you're sitting in front of the President of the Republic of Ghana, are you going to be wee, wow, ooh? No. Okay. So because it is important that you're speaking to me as President of the country, you will shape and practice and test before we come and we have that engagement. Do you understand me?
Absolutely.
So that is it. When people say, I want to be able to speak my truth, it doesn't mean that you can be an absolute nightmare, because everybody can be a nightmare. You speak truth to arrive at a positive outcome. True. Sometimes you speak truth because the other person needs to hear something, otherwise they will create problems for themselves. And I've done that a couple of times, where I've had to look people in the eye and give it to them very, very straight. And it hasn't gone down well at all. But that has been my perspective, my perception, and my analysis of a given situation, and I speak that to that person. And so there is room to say, this is wrong. There is room to say, you screwed up. There is room to say, that was amazing. There is room to say, you look amazing, and indeed, you look amazing.
Thank you.
All right?
Absolutely.
So there is room for all of that. But you must take the context, you must take the impact, you must take the import. All of that is important. So you cannot chisel and finesse your words or your communication when you are with your friends as much as you would do if you're speaking to the President of the Republic of Ghana. Totally different environment. If you go into court as a lawyer, there are formal cues that you use. Okay? So you can't ignore those. If you go to visit Asantehene, there are protocols that you must observe. So you can't ignore those. So you must personally categorize the impact you want to have and the import of the interaction. And if it's a girls' night out, then what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas.
I love this. So understanding, first of all, seek to understand your communication, whether you're the one who is speaking or you're the one that's either passively listening or actively listening. Seek to understand. But then also be mindful of the outcomes of that communication. What's your intended outcome for this communication? So that then guides all of these things, the audience, brevity, content, context, delivery, whether you should be exciting, how you're executing, finish, feedback, feed forward. I love this. I love this. You have to give us more.
There's more. There's plenty more.
You have to give us more. So, understanding outcomes. That's what I'm keeping in mind. There are ways we get it wrong. So many ways in which we get it wrong. For instance, you might choose the wrong execution. Maybe you have an outcome in mind. My outcome is, I'm speaking to my daughter. I intend for her to stop behaving this way. But then you go and choose the wrong, approach. The execution then is completely wrong. How can we choose the best, approaches? How are we? Because that's where the thing is, isn't it? Do I shout? Should I be calm? Do I, scare? What should guide us in choosing framing? What should guide us in framing communication so we get the best outcomes?
You're in a ICU. The patient is flatlining. How do you communicate? You're a pilot. You're running out of fuel. You're circling Kotoka. How do you communicate? You're a general. You're on the battlefield. How do you communicate? You're a pastor. You're counseling a couple. How do you communicate? All of that is contextual, and then empathy.
Contextual, empathy.
And then empathy. So, some parents shout. Other parents will just stare and say, to a 3-year-old toddler has been naughty, stop it. And immediately, the child knows the difference between mommy's stop it and daddy's stop it. Immediately. And they stop. So the context is important. Being able to put yourself in the shoes is important. The outcomes, if you don't communicate, is important. And so you weigh the mode of communication as against the unwanted outcome. Somebody is reversing into a gutter. Don't stop it. Okay, you will scream, because it is better to scream to save them from going into the gutter. Somebody's crossing the street, they are not paying attention, there's a motorcyclist coming at fast speed. What do you do? The context demands that you are vulnerable so that the person on the other side will hear and take evasive action. There was a tragedy that happened on the train line just down the road from here, less than a mile drive from here, where the person had headphones and was crossing the train line and did not hear. I won't tell you what happened. He's in a casket, 6 feet down. So your context will determine, but above all, you must exhibit empathy. So don't be that authentic person. Excuse me, am I allowed to say that is an asshole that leaves people crying all the time? That boss, that I can't, so I say as I like, forgetting that they wouldn't like that being done to them. Yeah, I'm being authentic. If everybody's to be nastily authentic, so if you're being authentic, your authentic self, and you're a nasty human being, does that mean you spread your nastiness? No. So you must be empathetic in delivery of your communication.
Wow. Would that be what we call emotional intelligence?
Exactly that. So when you take the context, you're saying, I'm speaking to pensioners. You're saying, I'm speaking to school children. You are saying, I am speaking to students who have just come out of school. You are saying, I am speaking to young women who want to climb the corporate ladder. You know, I watched you the other day, and you're talking about Nana Jane, and the fact that somebody had made a derisory, derogatory comment about the lady, and your response was, it was simply unacceptable. That person was being sexist and was not being objective in the comments that you were being making. That person lacked emotional intelligence.
My next question is, I don't even know if it's a question that needs accent, but how does one even, because a lot of people seem to lack it, emotional intelligence. A lot of people simply, oblivious, would that be the word?
Oblivious,
to that, and how it is crucial in our everyday interactions, in our, because from what you say, then it's central to everything. So that emotional intelligence is what should guide me to know that watching this person that's about to die, literally, I should perhaps, empathy should guide me to let go of myself in that moment, and wanting to act a certain way. It's perhaps, screaming and shouting and jumping, if that is what will take for this person to be saved, right? But a lot of people would simply not bother. How do we live authentically? And again, like you say, your nasty self, how do you move away from self and move towards empathy as a requirement for communication?
We are all on a journey. Assuming we're on point X, if you stand still at point X, you will atrophy and you will die. So we must move to the light, i.e. the light being the positive, optimized, best versions of ourselves. And in our journey to becoming the best versions of ourselves, we will need to shed off some of the bits that do not align or will weigh us down in our journey. And so being empathetic, being emotionally intelligent, the golden rule is do unto others as you want to be done to you. The platinum rule is do unto others as they want to be done to them.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Be your brother's keeper. Love your neighbor as yourself. We live in a country where 70% of us call ourselves Christians, and yet we love God and hate our neighbor. Makes all of us hypocrites. But sometimes we are oblivious, and so this program is part of the process of waking all of us up to say, if that happens to me, I wouldn't like it. So maybe that is not how I should be communicating. Let me find a more appropriate way to deliver my message, rather than I don't care and dump it. I mean, there's a way you can serve fufu and abenkwai with somebody's wearing a white shirt. You can put it on a tray and cover the abenkwai soup, palm nut soup, so that it doesn't splash. Or you can pour the fufu, you can pour the soup over the fufu and go and deliver it, knowing full well that as you dump it on the table, the soup is going to splash into the person's crisply ironed white shirt. And that's sometimes what we do. Intentionally dump palm nut soup into people's white shirts.
Right.
Metaphorically speaking.
Absolutely. And of course, this is where, let me be very simplistic with the conversation, so that this is where things like gossiping come in, So in this moment that you are seated with this person, tearing somebody's life apart, first of all, are you communicating to understand? Is that what you're doing? Are you communicating for an outcome? And are you communicating with empathy? I love this. Yeah. It's been so informative. Thank you so much. Take us home. That time is up.
So communication is always about what the recipient hears, not what you deliver. So always seek to confirm that they heard what you said, that they felt what you said, that they are taking away your message. But above all, remember, trust is a great wall that prevents effective communication. And if there is trust, the communication is smoother. If there's no trust, then the communication will be subject to intense scrutiny, skepticism, doubt, cynicism, and ultimately will not be believed.
Wow. I said it was the last question. I lied, because you just said something that, piqued my interest, and that's the part about communication being about what the recipient receives and how you can unintentionally miscommunicate.
Yes. Happens all the time.
But how do you manage that? That's out of your hands. You have no control over that.
So, the person comes into the room and she says, "Do you like my shoes?" He says, "I love your shoes." But you say nothing about her red jacket. He says, "But you didn't compliment me on my jacket. But you only asked me about your shoes." I'm not a mind reader. If you wanted me to compliment you on your jacket, you should have asked me. But the point is, the person is coming in with a notion, and this notion is that my husband never compliments me.
So back to trust.
Back to trust.
Back to trust.
Yeah.
Back to trust. I think that's what would sort of take care of a lot of the miscommunication.
So let me end up by saying, we are in election season now, and there'll be a lot of communication. But I dare say that whatever color, white or black, the constituents will be filtering it through the prism of trust.
We call it a silly season, don't we? Thank you so much, Mr. Theodore Albright. Always a delight.
The privilege is all mine.
Always love conversations with you, better informed. Thank you so much. Well, viewers, I hope like me today you have learned about the proper nuances of communication, understanding that it's art. You have to be intentional about it. You need to communicate seeking to understand. You need to communicate hoping for proper outcomes, but you need to communicate bearing in mind that the most important thing is how the recipients of that communication received that communication. Ultimately, it's about trust. I intend to communicate better. I hope you do too. Stay on, don't go away, the show continues. Alright, you're welcome to the second part of the show. This is The Couch with PRATT, and I'm sitting in for the second part, taking over. My name is Ohima Icha Ajekum, and of course, we are always educated and inspired by the conversations that PRATT has always with our seasoned panelists. And this time around, it was with lawyer Albright, and they discussed communication, the art of active listening for better connection and strong relationship. We are carrying on with our conversation on the stages in marriage. Marriage is not just meeting someone and getting the spark and you people say, you know what, let's just live in one house, we're going to live as the day go by and whatnot. It goes beyond that. There are stages when it comes to marriage, and of course I have here with me our ever lovely, insightful, educated, informed counselor Perfect, with her how do I describe it? So well informed when it comes to issues of marriage. Thank you, Counselor Perfect, for joining us again.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
This evening we're going to talk about. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm doing very well. I can't complain.
Yeah, I can see more than well. So,
amen. So, Counselor Perfect, we are talking about the stages in marriage. I mean, this has been a series that has been running. We've looked at marriage, what it is, the legal implications, the types of marriage, even the medical aspect of it. But are we only made to believe that it's just the ceremony and we move to one house, everybody doing their job, and we live for as many years as we can contain each other, and then whatever happens, happen? Or as you and I know, there are stages when it comes to marriage. Can you help us elaborate that this very principle?
Thank you. And I'd like to greet all our cherished viewers. This is Marriage Link Consult, bringing you this nice educative episode always. So our numbers are screening. So if you want a partner, if you want counseling, if you want to juice up your marriage, you just pick the number, call us, we attend to you. So when you talk about stages in marriage, as you said, marriage is a lifelong journey. Nobody gets into marriage to divorce or just live just like that. We all want the end goal to be together happy forever and all that. But you know that the happy ever after doesn't work in marriage. It's just in Disney that lives there in cartoons. But when it comes to marriage, you realize that things pops up. So we have stages that you must know. When you come to counseling, we take you through these stages that your marriage is likely to develop through these 5 stages. And mostly it's not everybody that goes through stage 1 to stage 5. Some abort or end the marriage in the second stage.
Absolutely.
Mostly that is the stage that most divorces occur, or some are able to get to the final stage. Some also just from the first stage they jump straight to the third stage or the fourth stage. So it depends on each couple. It's not a straight jacket that fits all marriages, but it depends on the 2 people involved in the marriage. And I said that marriage itself is work. If you want your marriage to be happy, you need to put in work. It's daily work. It's not like monthly, yearly. No, it's daily work. It's work. You must be conscious about it, that this is what I want. I love this person. I've gone in to marry this gentleman, so I need to make it work. You also need to know that, yes, I want to make it work. I've gone in for this beautiful lady. I want to make it work. Then the 2 of you can take it out from there. Even if you want it to work, you know that because we are imperfect and we are living in a sinful world, and other people will virtually interfere with our lives, our work, our family, our friends and all that, they also bring their own challenges. So these stages comprises that, and you giving birth and they living are all part of the stages of marriage.
All right. So we understand that giving birth, changes that just come along the way during the marriage, even development and growth, they are all things you experience as the marriage goes along. But we understand that during marriage there's a honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase, which I personally am looking forward to, because I'm going to kill you people with the pictures and all that. I mean, it's when you think about it, it gives you some sort of euphoria and all that. But then people recently, let me just chip in this one. Recently I saw a post on Twitter where someone said, those married, what advice will you give to those who are not married yet, or who are yet to marry? And I went to the comment section and you could see all sorts of ideas, all sorts of opinions. Someone said, don't ever get married, in caps with exclamation.
Really?
Some said marriage is nice. As a woman, you just have to understand that the man is the head. So everybody has what they believe make marriage work, or makes marriage work. And from the honeymoon stage, let's just pick it up stage after stage after stage. So from the honeymoon stage, what are some of the things that characterize the honeymoon stage?
So when you talk about the honeymoon stage, as the word says, honeymoon. You understand? So you are in this it's a disillusionment stage, right?
Like magical.
Yes. So the butterflies are still there. When you see him, you are like,
oh my god. Hey, Counselor Perfect.
You see,
you have experienced it, so you know. You know more than me.
that kind of feeling, you understand, when you see him, when anything about him reminds you of how nice he sent and all that. It's a blissful stage. You are always seen together, and you see, mostly you see them wearing the same uniform, the t-shirts and all that.
My queen, my king.
Yes. Oh, you see them on social media, their DP, the husband is always there, my boo, my babe, my ride or die, the love of my life. You've been seeing all these things. They can't just get enough of each other. So whatever people say, they don't even hear. That is it. So from the you courting, you getting married, and after the marriage, that is the stage. And mostly, some people, it takes 2 years. Some people 3. Some people as even long as 5 years before they can get out of that euphoria stage, that butterfly moment, and come to the realities in life. But some people, it's just maybe 5-6 months they are off. So it depends on you and how you see things. You see, some people, I would say, some people are love addicts. They are in love with the love itself, but not the person.
They love love.
Yes, they like how the feeling is, how we do things together, how you get it. They like those things. So for them, it takes a long period of time before it wears off. And that time, you enjoy each other. You don't see the fault of each other that much. You see, love is blind, and marriage restores its sight. So when you get married, the first instance is the love and all that. That's why you say you go for honeymoon. So when you go for honeymoon, it's like the two of you just doing all your own thing, doing all the styles that you have learned, all those things. That time the ladies don't say no. If the men come around, they even push it to them. But it gets to certain times when the men say no, I'm on my period, my headache, my leg, the weather is too hot, it rained too much today, I want, you understand. So that stage, you understand yourself, you're in sync with your partner. So things flow with you. That is the basically honeymoon stage.
All right. So how does this euphoria or this sort of magical or blissful feeling, how does it impact the perception with when it comes to the couple? How do they see themselves? So how long can they even sustain that kind of feeling? Because as you said, some is just 3 months, some is just 6 months, some is even up to 5 years. How then during that period, do you see your spouse as an angel? Do you see them as, you know, some flawless being or some demigod? How is it like? How does it change your perception?
Just all the words that you use, that's how you see them. So when people are telling you about what your partner has done, you don't see anything. So I'm saying it's from the time you are courting the person to when you get married, early part of marriage, that is where you experience this. So you don't see anything wrong with them. You don't see their flaws. All what you see is the good side of them. You are living in actually like a full paradise. You see, love is a hormone and love is addictive. So when you have the dopamine being very high, you don't see the actual things on the wall. But you see, God has made it so, God has created us so much that it gets to a time it wears off for you to be able to work, for you to reason properly and do other things. Because if it's that, then you cease not to go to work, you not be proactive. You'll be at work daydreaming about your partner. You'll be at work daydreaming about your wife, your husband. You'll not be proactive. So it needs to wear off so that you'll be proactive again. So that is where the commitment comes in. So the love doesn't decrease, but rather the euphoria and the excitement and the adrenaline that comes with it decreases. Then the commitment sets in. So that is the difference. You see, in relationship, when it declines, there's nothing like commitment. But in marriage, because of the vow that you took, the commitment sets in. So the love is not that high. A couple should tell you that I love my wife. I still love my wife. although you not see us doing all that, feeding her with ice cream and all that, I still love my wife. I'm committed to her. I'm having some tangible things that I'm committed to her. Seeing her daily and performing certain activities for me. Yes, even we can be silent and we know what each other is thinking about. Yes,
that we get to that part.
In marriage. Yeah. So it fades away. The love declines, the love hormones declines. Not that the love is not there, but is there the euphoria, the adrenaline, the hormones decline for you to have clear mind to do other activities.
Very well.
Yeah.
So since it's a stage, marriage has stages or is segmented in a way, it will get to a time where the dopamine, as you said, will just cease, and now reality will set in.
Yeah.
Now, when reality sets in, we establish routine and stability. How does this go?
You see, that is the stage that mostly psychology, we call it disillusionment stage. You are at a stage that you see the fault of your partner. Now the dopamine is down, your adrenaline level, oxytocin and all that is down. So you see their faults more. First, we're not staying with their partners, so certain things you not see. Because you love them, how they eat and all that, you think it was so nice. Cute. Their snoring was so cute. You'll be waking up to look at them. But now, you realize that it's unbearable. So you rather want to use a pillow to cover your head, or sometimes you wake them up to sleep. Well, why are you snoring so much? Are you a pig?
Or you take the couch.
Yes, they'll get offended. If a simple thing like the towel, you don't like it when another person uses your towel. But when you were so much in love, you never cared so much about it. But now you realize that you are now in your normal stage. You are committed to the person, all right, but you know that this is me, you need also your space. But your partner still wants to use your towel. And they use it to rub all those things, and you don't know whether they use it to rub down, that you want to use it for your face. So you tell them, don't use my towel, you have your towel. But they think two shall be one, we are one, so why can't I use your towel? Why can't I use your sponge? It just starts to create conflict between the two of you. But this is the time in marriage that we always advise that it's time you sit down with your partner, discuss certain things, because it's not everything you get to know about a person. Marriage, you get exposed to a lot of their inside that you never knew. So discuss things with them. Maybe you don't like this, you don't like that. You also tell you things that he doesn't like about you. So you work things out. Instead of you running to tell friends, instead of you running to tell your parents, your mother and all that, your pastors, you will be making a big mistake.
Right, I was even going to come to that with regards to communication and compromise, which underpin stability in marriage. Now, how do we navigate this? How do we deal with compromising in marriage and communication in marriage?
You see, compromising is the both of you understand that this is where we have reached. For us to progress, you need to move a step. I also need to move a step. Then we can move on. But if you don't communicate it to your partner, you can't compromise. You can't compromise. Even if you are compromising, they will think you are just doing your own self a favor. This is what you want. But it's best you communicate to your partner that this is what is happening and I'm not in agreement with it. This is how you cook. This is how. I have a client who the disagreement was about how the person used the cup. The person would take a cup from the kitchen and fill water with it and use it to brush the teeth instead of a sink. The sink that the person would there's a sink, so why don't you just brush? But you come to the kitchen and take a cup,
take it to the
bathroom to brush your teeth, and you see the paste scent and everything will be around the cup. The lady says she uses it for tea, and so whenever she hears that, it's nauseating. She has been informing the husband to stop, but still, so that is the conflict. The husband said, this little thing, why are here? Why don't you just forget about it? She bought a different cup, and still the husband moved to that other cup too. So it's time that you communicate that maybe this is me. So this cup I want to use it. You can just take this and use it. Please don't use this, because whenever you use it, the scent, I don't like it. Then you understand yourself. So it's best this place you communicate with each other. Sit down and communicate, talk. Instead of running to talk to somebody else, talk to your partner. You see, in marriage, it works best if we talk to each other instead of talking about each other. Going to talk about your partner, your wife to your mother will never solve the issue, but rather sit down and talk to them. Because in marriage, that time you think you don't love them again, but you are wrong. You still love them. It's just that the hormones has decreased, but you love them. So it's best you talk to your partner. That's why when you tell your mother anything, your friends anything, and they start insulting your partner, you feel hurt. And you decide sometimes not to move with them again. Then this friend doesn't have my interest in her. It's just you want to tell them. So you still love your partner again. It's never best to go that time destroying.
So it's best when the communication exists between the two of you, and you establish the likes and the dislikes and the pet peeves, as people say it, when it comes to your relationship. But then so it's a process. We are building it. We are building it up. Now, from honeymoon stage, dopamine has depleted. Now we have come to establishing a routine and building stability. Now, what role does intimacy and connection play when it comes to building stability in a marriage?
You see, it's the bonding. That's why in any marriage, the lawyer will tell you that if you don't consummate your marriage, it's not legally binding. Even in biblical aspect, if you don't consummate, the Lord doesn't take it that it's marriage. The two of you are not married. You are just in maybe friends or whatever. So you need to consummate more. The more, if you want to bond with your partner, is how frequent you have that sexual intercourse. So when you are married, that time is when you need to have sexual intercourse more. When you're having conflict with your partner, it's not the time that you need to shoo them away, but that is the time that you need to have more intercourse with them. You see, the more you have intercourse with them, you hug them, you kiss them, it's where you share that understanding with them. It works a lot, and the love develops for the two of you. But if you decide not to just go your separate ways, not to bond in sex, it affects your marriage. That is why I realize that most people in distance marriages they don't have that attraction, that chemistry. It becomes a burden.
The physical bonding isn't there.
It isn't there. So if you realize that you are the type that if you always see the nakedness of your wife, the attraction goes down, you need to discuss that with your partner. That they need not to show their nakedness so much to you, so that you get attracted to them. They should cover up whenever you are around, so that you have that sense of mystery about them. That is the time that you need to discover what works for you sexually, because now you are together, you are trying new things. So you need to understand each other's body. That is the time that you need to go on an adventure on your partner, to know their erotic zones, what works for them, what they like. So that is not the time for you to fight. And mostly we have the post-marital counseling. So during this phase that you are going to have troubles, you go back to your counselor to help you. So instead of talking to somebody else, you come, we help you that do it this way, talk about this, do it that. Whenever your wife is complaining, talking too much, why don't you hug her or just kiss her? She'll stop, and all that. Just little tricks that will make your wife become okay. People think I should ignore her or I should fight with her. No, you ignore her, she's going to still continue talking. You fight with her, it's going to escalate. So why don't you hug her? Just kiss her, play with her, things will just stop. And whatever she's complaining about, make sure you don't do it again.
Absolutely interesting. Now you're still watching the couch with our PRATT, and my name is Ohimai Chajikum, sitting in for her. Now we are building up on the conversation when it comes to stages in marriage, and this conversation is with no other than Counselor Perfect, and we have run through the honeymoon stage, the establishing routine and stability stage. We'll be moving on very soon, but there's this final question I want to ask, that does it mean when the touching and the physical bonding isn't adequate, the marriage is not likely to be sustained?
It depends. You see, some couples, some like the romance, some like the communication, some like the sexual bonding more. So it depends on what the couples like. Yeah.
Okay.
You see, we have some people, they can just be, especially those who are sapisexual, they can just be with
Like
you.
me.
Yeah, okay. Reading a book, discussing it, it's so fulfilling to them. Some watching a movie and discussing the movie, what it entails and all that, they are connecting with you. So know what your partner wants, the type of partner you have, and connect. And this is what you should be doing during the courtship stage. So when you get married, know that these are things that my partner wants. Some people don't want too much of penetrative sex. They just want the romance and all that. So
foreplay.
Yes, foreplay. If that's what your partner wants, do that more and less of the penetration and all that.
Right.
So know what your partner wants and do that, because people bond in different ways. Some, when they worship God and they are praying and they are doing the tongues, they bond easily with you. But never neglect the sexual aspects. Don't just go a long period neglecting that aspect, because it really helps in marriage.
Caution, caution, caution. Do not ignore the sexual aspect. It's very, very important. And stop shunning your partner away. Stop saying, I'm not in the mood, da, 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 da. That's where compromise also comes in, because you are doing what your partner wants. The fact that you are not in the mood at the time doesn't mean that whatever they want should be, sidelined. We are building up on this conversation. Now, the next stage is the challenge, facing challenges and conflict. This is where people easily give up. This is where people do not understand why this has to happen, how come this person has become this way. How do we navigate when we get to this stage?
You see, as you rightly said, the third stage, when I was starting, I said that mostly marriages end in the third stage. So most you realize 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, then they just decide that, oh, we can't deal with this again, let's just call it off. So mostly within 3, 5, 6, 7 years, that is the time that you should be very careful in your marriage. You should be, if you're a Christian, be prayerful more, put in the work, ignore most of the faults of your partner, or else you'll be pushed to give up. But if we are able to weather the storm at that stage, it bonds the two of you, because you have gone through a lot that stage. You see, we've talked about the honeymoon, disillusionment, and now you are here. So this is the stage that you are firmly grounded, knowing that, for me, I don't like this about my partner. So whenever you think about your partner, instead of it being love and affection, you just think of how much he snores, how much he doesn't bring anything home, but he's always throwing his weight about, how much lazy she is. Then you start comparing your partner to your ex. You start comparing your partner to that colleague in your office, that pastor, the other couples that you think they are perfect. You start comparing your marriage to them, and you think that you have made a mistake, so you need to run out. That is where most people make that mistake. But it's the time that you should rather focus on the positive attributes of your partner. Work on the positive aspect more. The negative aspect, try to communicate and work things with him. And don't compare your partner to your ex. Don't compare your partner to your boss. Don't compare your partner to your pastor, your sofumame, or the people you see on television, because we are very unique people and special in our ways. Concentrate on what you have, and you realize that if we are able to cement it and realize that I'm committed to this person, I'm willing to make it work. This is the flaws, I've accepted it, I'm working on it, and the good side, I'm enjoying it. It's easy for you to move further, but not that the lawyers need to come in for divorce cases.
Absolutely. So what then are some of the things that incite conflict in a relationship? Because you mentioned, you made a scenario of a lady who is angered by her husband's use of a cup in the house, and how he uses it and where he uses it actually. Perhaps during their lovey-dovey stage, that trait may have not mattered so much to her, but now how is that a problem? Because perhaps couple A finds it as a problem, but then couple B may not find. That means there's a lot of variation when it comes to or there's variation when it comes to issues and what we dwell on, to fight, to disagree, and all those things. What are some of the common things that incite conflict in a relationship or in marriage?
Mostly, also the first thing is lack of communication or inadequate communication. If we don't communicate right, you see, some people are communicating, but they are not actually communicating. So if you communicate and you are not getting the right feedback, it means you need to change your form of communication.
But can it, because the other time I was reading something and it had to do with communication in a relationship, and it boils down to comprehension. Yeah. Because you can communicate as clearly as you think you have to me, but then I don't understand. Like, it's gibberish. Yes. It's like you're just,
speaking Spanish and I don't understand Spanish.
How is this resolved? Because it's a big issue. It's a big issue that I think couples, let's veer off a little from marriage to normal relationships, even friendships, workplace relationships, family relations. We find this problem. How do we come to terms with it?
You see, that's why I said communication is two ways. So when you are communicating, you're not getting the desired feedback. You need to redo your homework and get to know what I'm communicating to my partner. Does she understand? Is she hearing? Is she understanding what I'm saying? Because some people can hear but they don't understand, or she hears, she understands, just that they just don't want to give you feedback. So if you identify it, then you know that I need to change my mode of communication. Maybe my voice tone is too harsh, so they rather call in or they ignore you outright. Or how you are communicating to them, that is not their persona, so they don't understand. You are communicating love, but they think this is not love to me. So let me communicate in a love language that my partner understands. Or how I'm communicating, my partner thinks I'm being too knowing. Right. You're a wife, and maybe the cup issue, the husband thinks this is just it's nothing. You are becoming too knowing. But if I take the time to tell my husband that this is how I feel, whenever I just smell that, I feel like throwing up, and it's not the best every morning feeling that. So if you use this, I'll be okay. It seems it's affecting my health. We have people, they have DO, so where there's water, they can't just step in and all that. The OCD. You see, you must get to understand them, that what their upbringing or whatever happened to them has left that effect with them. So this is how you also need to come in to help. If you love somebody, you need to let go of certain things to accommodate them. So the communication is factor, and sometimes the finances. We get married and later realizing that this person that I thought was so glamorous, driving this guy, actually has nothing to his name. It's like it's me who is bringing everything. And especially the ladies, when they realize that it's them who is pushing more, you are not pushing more, then they start comparing. If I'd even married my ex, that guy, I could have been better off. So they see you and they see disappointment. They see you and they see regrets. And they can't go back because they are stuck with you. So they just start doing things to get you bored, because they themselves, they are not happy. So it's time that you communicate it to your partner that maybe your finances, things are not going well, and I'm a lady, I don't hold the perception that I should take care of you, because we all have our perceptions. Some ladies can take care of their men, it's okay with them. Some can't. With just a man taking care of, just taking a whole man taking care of a man, it's all for them. Everybody will hear about it. They will not be happy. They can't buy their wig and also give you money and all that. So talk to them that this is me and it's not working for me. Add a job to it or do something. You understand? So communication is key, finances is key, then the other things play a role.
Now, in every cause there's an effect. That's what we've just established. In the same vein, there is a remedy. So usually what counselors and preachers, religious leaders, or people you encounter when you go to weddings, especially the customary type of marriage. You hear them give advice, you know, whenever your husband wants it, you have to give it to him. You don't have to say no. Like, we hear all those things. They are hilarious, but they are actually very serious issues, and they are real issues. Now, they speak about forgiveness and religion. Religion insists on forgiveness because it happens to be what will prevent or what will mitigate the effect of an offense that someone has, you know, done you. As married people, how important is forgiveness?
It tries on it. You need to learn to forgive your partner, but I would say not everything that you can forgive and forget. We all have our deal breakers. So if you find out your husband is cheating on you,
you shouldn't forgive him,
pregnated somebody and all that, I can forgive you, but I can't forget, so I need to move on with my life. I need to divorce you.
But there are many women who more or less
don't care.
Then, you know, they accept it and they move on with the marriage. But others, on the other hand, are unable to stand or even fathom the reality of it, that you are having another child outside the commitment we share or the promise or vows that we have exchanged. How can one, in their hearts of hearts, because at the end of the day, we are educating people, we are also inspiring them to do better, right? How can we say, you know what, let me just forgive, unless the person doesn't want to stay in the marriage again, let me just forgive and, you know, move on with whatever it is? I mean,
it depends. You see, even the Bible says that if you find your partner cheating, infidelity, if you still love them, accept them back and continue, forgive them. And forgiving means you are trying to forget it. You are not going to remember and be. And the Bible also says that if you can't forgive your partner when they have cheated on you, you can divorce them and go. So it's two things. If you can forgive, accept and continue. If you can't, you can divorce and go. And the law also, infidelity is part. You can just divorce and go. So we are not the same. We have deal breakers. So if you realize that with you, infidelity or abuse is your deal breaker, you can't stay.
Absolutely.
You can move. But one thing with forgiveness is it sets you free. But if you decide not to forgive, you are rather imprisoning your own self. The hurt and all that comes to being affects you, not the other person. So you must learn to forgive. If you can't live with the person again, it's okay, but learn to forgive them and move on. And I always say there's a lot of things happen in marriages. You need to weigh the good and the bad and the results and move on. Maybe the person cheated, but looking at what will cause if you move away, it's going to be a disastrous more than you staying. Then you forget about the cheating, you forgive and stay, giving the person caution that the person doesn't do it again. But you know, a lot of people stay in the marriage because of the children. The diverse, whatever will happen to the children, so they decide to stay. They forgo themselves and decide to stay. So whatever choice you are making, make sure that you staying outweighs you moving out.
It has to be considered. The two sides have to be considered very well. We don't have much time, but this is still The Couch with Amma Pratt, and we're talking about the stages in marriage. Let's move on quickly with the other stages. We have the parenthood and the family dynamics. Now, when children come in, how does it change the dynamics of the relationship?
A lot of things change.
I can imagine.
And you see, when you get when a child comes in, your sex life changes. It affects your wife, it affects your body as a woman. So you realize that even how you attend to your husband, it changes. Because the baby wants to feed, you are breastfeeding your child, you are preparing the food, sometimes you're also schooling and all that. You don't even have time for yourself. And realize that your body has also changed. Your breast that used to be standing and all that. Now the shape has changed.
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
It's no more Statue of Liberty.
You understand? And maybe first it was more smaller, now it's much heavy.
Yeah.
You understand? You have stretch marks on your belly. Your belly is not that flat again. You are doing all the exercise to get back in shape. You need to take off. You understand? It's stressful. So that time you need a partner to understand. Mostly the husbands need to understand that my wife has changed. Physically she has changed, psychologically she has changed, she has taken up on a different role as a mother. So certain things I need to come in to help instead of demanding from her, because the sex, when she is pregnant, some people when they are pregnant they can't have sex, and 2 months after pregnancy and all that they can't. So you must understand your partner more. And the husbands, you realize that when the children comes in, the paying of the school fees, financial responsibility, the child getting sick and all that becomes huge toll on them. So they sacrifice a lot, things that they like doing. Now they stop, not because they have children, but they are stopping because they want to shift that financial privilege to their children. They are not wearing certain things they used to. The perfume that they used to buy, they are decreasing their budget so that it can amend for the children's school fees and all that. So it changes a lot. Your finances changes, your body changes, but this is the time that you need to communicate. Marriage is more about communication
and collaborate.
Yes, understand each other. So you come in to help. If the she's breastfeeding the whole day, so at night she needs to sleep, you can just pat the baby when she's crying, pat the baby, and so that she can also get a good night's sleep. You can also help to feed the baby. You can change diapers. Now a lot of men are doing that, so there's nothing new when you also start helping your wife, because it's the child belongs to the two of us, not just the mother.
So that burden should be lifted off most of the mothers, because it's very unfair that the two of us consensually came out with this child and only me. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. So due to time, let's just wrap it up with the the empty nest and also the growing old together. Let's just merge it and
so when we talk about the empty nest, we are talking about now the children are matured, so they are now living home. So if they are living home, it means that the two of you are back together again, and meaning that if you lack the companionship, marriage was created first for companionship and procreation. So if you are not having any companionship in your marriage, then it means that you are total strangers. The children are gone, their rooms are empty, just left with the two of you, but your wife is not your friend, your husband is not your friend. So you better go about talking to other people, watching television, picking up walks, and that is not the best. So you need to develop from the honeymoon stage, develop the companionship throughout the years, so that when the children leave, you not be alone. And the growing up together, you realize that that's the final stage of marriage. When you see most people, you can't even differentiate between them.
They start to look alike.
So it's like you see them, it's like, are they twins?
Are they twins? Are they siblings?
It's kind of the food they like. They all like the same food.
Apparently there's a medical explanation to that. There is.
I know. So mostly you see, the more you have that sexual interaction with your partner, you sync with the person, your fluid. So mostly we don't say that aspect, we leave it to the medical aspect, but that's why we always say that bond with your partner. So you start to reason as one, you start to look alike, and that time you end with the friendship stage. You become friends. So that time you can't be sexually, you are not very active sexually, but since you are friends, you can communicate the past years, whatever happened to the two of you. That is the time that you draw strength from it. You encourage each other, you grow old together, then one dies. Before you realize, if you are so committed, your marriage really worked. You realize that mostly 6 months and the other person also follows. They live long, they understand themselves. This is marriage. But if you decide just to do things anyhow, you can't reach the final stage, growing old and being friends together. You have a wife, but your wife is not your friend. And you were not mating with your wife. We're not, so you are not, people see you and say like, hey, now how are they able to make it up to this?
All right, Counselor Perfect, thank you so much for always joining us. The conversation has been on the stages in marriage. The ability to ascertain this, of course, will give you a better understanding, and also how to, you know, rightly act in your marriage or in your relationship. It has been a very insightful conversation, an educative one, of course. I hope you have learned, because here education and growth lives. Here, this is The Couch with Amma Pratt. My name is Ohima Echa Ajekum, and I sat in for the second session of the show. Keep watching. Catch you same time next week.
Truly African.